Welcome to the On List. Today, I want to talk about the online fragrance community, a topic that I used to visit more frequently. Past seasons haven't really touched upon much so far in 2025, but we're overdue for another observation on the state of the community, as it were. And I've sort of noticed that the online fragrance community has hit a kind of malaise of sorts. Those of you who are familiar with the term malaise, you might normally hear that applied to industries and markets, like famously the American automotive malaise of the 70s and 80s, where new regulations came in and stripped cars of a lot of power. So a lot of American companies who didn't have the tooling right away to make more efficient cars instead just choked out the cars they had to pass regulations and then tried to basically get over on everyone by padding the cars with fake sense of luxury and different cosmetic things. We had the personal luxury coupes and the opera windows and the Landau tops and the fake wood grain vinyl stickers on the side of the cars, all these things to try and make you forget that you were getting the same old car on the same old frame with the same old low performance, and because they didn't want to spend the money on developing cars that were more efficient with the power they had and were able to actually get the job done and still meet the regulations that were put in place at the beginning of the 70s. And it wouldn't be until the mid-80s, really, that the American automotive industry would finally leave the malaise. And most of that was due to imports just beating them. You know, Toyota, Honda, Datsun, which became Nissan. They all began taking bigger and bigger bites out of the U.S. market. So eventually the money had to be spent to correct the problem. Well, in this case, we're discussing more of a purchaser side malaise, not a supply side. See, that was the automotive malaise, was a supply side malaise where we didn't have any good options. We had stagnant options. Now I'm talking more like malaise on the buying side, on the consumer side, you know. And some of that might be fatigue at the state of things. You know, I've already done videos about how the market has really followed the state of the economy and followed the state of society, where the middle classes have been gutted. So you can't really have middle class products if you don't have a middle class market to buy those products, meaning everything either goes way up market or crashes and burns and becomes some garbage you buy at cut rate stores. The direct-to-video, direct-to-VHS brands like Beverly Hills Polo Club that literally don't sell in major retailers. They literally get shipped right to the discounters to sell. So they're like the fragrance equivalent of Redbox, right? So that's your entry level now, or your Bath & Body Works, which is pretty respectable, honestly. I used to hate Bath & Body Works, but they've gotten pretty respectable for their price point. But then there's nothing in the middle. Those middle tier designers you could pick up at all the different perfume stores you found on the high street, you found in the malls, the kiosks, all those middle brands, those Kenneth Cole style brands, they're gone. You know, they are just about gone. Now it's Chanel selling at $200 a pop, and Dior selling at, you know, $200 a pop and up, or nothing, just nothing in between. So, like, once you leave the bargain basement stuff, then you've just got the super high-end niche stuff, or designers that are now tiptoeing in the niche. So that has kind of put a malaise on people, has put this kind of cynical outlook. And obviously global politics don't help. You know, the state of the economy doesn't help. I don't want to make this a video about those things because those things are better talked about by more qualified people than myself. But just at a passing glance, I can safely say that they don't help things. They don't help people in having confidence with brands, since a lot of, especially with corporate consolidation and brands getting bigger and fewer in number, right? Bigger, fewer in number, multi-billion, trillion-dollar companies now selling products and rigging the market since there's no competition. So, you know, if it's not from LVMH and it's not from Kering, it's from L'Oreal or Coty. So, not a whole lot of options, guys. And all of that just contributes to the general malaise that I have been seeing. And what's really funny about this is that people are directing their anger at the wrong target. And that's one of the reasons why I'm having this discussion, why I'm bringing this up. So people are actually going after the critics, the reviewers. They're going after the influencers. They're going after the YouTubers, the Instagrammers. And while I've done videos about them too, and I understand that a lot of them are less than honest, a lot of them will promote poison, right, as the cure. They will do the whole P.T. Barnum thing, the whole snake oil thing. This is well established. A lot of these guys are clowns. I've called them the clown show. They know who they are and they don't like me because I put truth to power and it pisses them off. But I'm a tiny channel. I have a tiny reading audience on my blogs. I'm just a speck in the spectrum, so I don't have to worry about anyone's legal team really coming after me, since I don't really... My words, however stinging they may be, don't have meaningful impact on anyone. I can be ignored. So that's one of the reasons why I toot my horn so much, because I can make all the noise I want. I'm just a little squawk over here in the corner, right? You can just go, just put your big foot down on me and stamp me out and I'm gone, right? Don't have to do anything serious to stop me, because I'm not a real threat to anybody. Never have been, never will be. But I'm seeing people just get more nasty and more rude and more jaded towards the influencers. And I'm beginning to wonder if this whole malaise period is really just a culmination of all the years of abuse and misinformation that we've seen swarming around. You know, like obviously social media gets really, really murky with truth versus manufactured narratives and all that. And again, this is something that someone more qualified can speak of than I, but the point is, when it filters down into the fragrance spaces and it filters down into fragrance YouTube, fragrance Instagram, so on and so forth, a lot of people are starting to realize now that they're getting had, that they're getting taken advantage of. They're being sold subpar product. They're being sold basically clones in many cases with a $300, $400 price tag, because the education has reached a point where a lot of people in the online fragrance community, a lot of hobbyists, not average people. This is not about average people. They are blissfully ignorant, like they're in the Matrix. The people who took the red pill and left the Matrix are now seeing that a lot of these expensive brands are just GCMSing each other's work, other big brands, coming out with their own take of the same damn thing, and they all have the same high price tag and the same heavy bottles and heavy caps and metal plaques on the front of the bottle, but they all smell 6 of one, half dozen of another. And then when you've got the clowns with the Under Armour shirts on and the backwards flat brim hats doing the Jamie Kennedy Malibu's Most Wanted, going, yo, I'm up in the booth trying to sell you some fragrance, right? This is bomb. This is beast mode. Yo, this will get you all the ladies. And they're sitting there talking that garbage, acting like they've got just 2 brain cells to rub together, you know? And it's like, I can understand the anger being directed towards them. But on the other hand, it's like baby's taking his first steps. The people of the community are just educated enough to realize that these mouthpieces are marketing, but they haven't quite made the connection yet that they should be going to the source, that the YouTuber, that the influencer, the Instagrammer, at the end of the day, is the same thing as a Billy Mays, as a Ron Popeil, I think it is, infomercial guy. It's the same person dressed differently to appeal to younger people. You know, Ron Popeil sold to your grandmother, Billy Mays sold to your dad. Well, average Frag Joe Blow with his gym bro persona, he's marketing to the millennial, he's marketing to the older Gen Z person, the 20, 30 something. That's who he's marketing to, the lifestyle guru with the six-pack abs and, like I said, the flat brim lids and stuff, and listens to all of the, you know, drill rap and stuff in the background and all that sort of shit, drum and bass. So cool, too cool for school, trying to sell you a bottle of Alexandria or trying to sell you a bottle of some Middle Eastern clone brand, right? Saying it's the bomb dizzle yo. And it's like, yeah, that's only part of the problem. That guy is just trying to hustle. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. I respect the hustle. You know, you're doing what you got to do to get your bills paid, so you're not on the streets smoking Fenty, you know, folding over doing the Fenty fold or hitting meth on the tinfoils. You're trying to stay out of that state, so you're doing what you got to do to make ends meet. You know, you don't want to be the next statistic, right? You don't want to be in some Tyler Oliveira video. You don't want to be that guy, so you want to try and stay on top of shit. So if it means you got to hawk perfumes, then it means you got to hawk perfumes. I don't have hate for that person. Never have, never will. But the malaise we're seeing, the cynicism, the anger, the apathy, should really go back to the brands. It should stop just laser focusing on the influencers, right? And it should go all the way home. It shouldn't just stop with the messenger. It needs to go all the way home. And that's where I take issue. And like I said, I respect the hustle. Some of these guys are actually good guys. Yeah, they have the persona, okay? Yeah, they hawk the clones. They do whatever. They grind out the views. But it's work. It's clocking in, putting in their 8 hours, and clocking out. It is their job to do that for you. So you need to accept that and either continue to follow them or stop following them. But blowing up on them and giving them a bunch of shit, going after them, death threats, using slurs or whatever it is you're going to do at them, right? Actual hate, guys, actual hate at them seems like, you know, just seems kind of silly. It's like someone throwing a lit match on gasoline and you're yelling at the match. You're not yelling at the person who threw the match. You're yelling at the match. It's not the match's fault, okay? You got to yell at the person who threw the match on the gasoline. So, you know, yelling at the influencer is like yelling at the match, okay? He is the effect. The designer brands, the big brands, the clone brands, the fly-by-night niche brands, all the ones pushing the sponsorships, all the ones pushing the product, the PR lists. Those guys are the cause, not the effect, okay? So that's one thing I want to get out of the way. The other thing about the malaise is the apathy. We're not talking about the anger now. We're talking about the apathy. We're talking about you go online, you go on the Facebooks, you go on, again, the Threads, the Instagrams, the MySpaces. Gotcha. There is no MySpace anymore. Seeing if you're still paying attention there. But, you know, you're going on the social medias, whatever you're doing, the Reddits, and also Fragrantica, Base Notes, Perfume, all those places. And you just see people skeptical and not excited. It used to be when I go on Base Notes, right? Every new Chanel release, every new Dior release, every new Tom Ford release, every new designer or niche brand, People would be like, oh my God, I wonder what this is going to smell like. Oh, Tom Ford's dropping a new one. Oh, Givenchy's dropping a new flanker for pie. Oh, this new thing is coming out. I'm excited. I want to smell it, right? Now you got this apathy level. You got these people just are like, yeah, that's going to be bullshit. Like, they don't even know what it smells like. They literally just look at the bottle, look at the name, and they automatically assume the worst. You know, even like respectable brands that have never really betrayed anyone, brands that have never really fucked anyone over, right? Yet, keyword here, yet. Brands like Hermes, for instance, pretty good, respectable, reputable brands. Hermes drops the announcement of a new flanker. Terre de Hermes Intense or something, right? This is a line that people normally don't throw dirt on. This is a line that people normally have high hopes for. Maybe not expectations, but they have high hopes. They're optimistic, right? No. People are like, oh, this is going to be trash. Oh, this is horrible. I already know it's not going to have performance. It's going to cost too much. It's going to be derivative. It's going to be full of this. It's going to be lacking that. Da 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 da. Not interested. And I'm like, gee golly, when did we reach the point where Hermes is getting pissed on? New releases getting pissed on, you know? And you can just do it with all the major brands. You know, anyone releases a fragrance. Diptyque, no one cares. Or they're cynical, skeptical at best, you know? And yeah, the artisanal guys, the indie guys will always have their super fans. The Rouge L'Adore, the Bortnikov, Audrey, Slumber House, Pineword, all of those brands that make their little 500 bottle runs, all naturals, little tiny 1 ounce bottle that costs $500, sells out in day one and it gets scalped for the next couple of days. So most of y'all are going to pay $1,500, $2,000 for your bottle, but you get to say you own one of whatever, right? Those brands are always going to have fans. Those brands are always going to be relevant to those little universes that they live in, those little microcosms that they live inside of. Those brands will always have that following. They don't really have to worry about any of this. They are not really subject to this malaise, so to speak, because they are outside of it, you know? Even indie brands that may not be so limited, numbered in nature, brands that make more than one batch of fragrance, right? Clandestine Laboratories, Rogue, Darren Allen. There are a lot of brands that just perpetually do batches of fragrances and don't do a one and done, right? They're a little more accessible. They still sell out, but they have waiting lists and they replenish eventually. Even those brands also don't really have a whole lot to worry about. They're kind of outside all this, you know? Unless you're like a DS and Durga and you sell out to the man, right? You cash out, you know? Those kind of brands people don't tend to respect. But just anything that could be considered a major niche, luxury or designer release, I really don't care what brand it is. I don't care what perfumer is making it. I don't care who is releasing it. The expectation is it sucks. When you have this 100%, 10 out of 10, okay, expectation that every release is not worth your time, every release is going to suck, every release is a wait and see, every release is automatically a failure, what's the point? What is the point? And that's what I'm talking about. And that negativity and that apathy and that, you know, Ben Affleck smoking the cigarette, holding the Pellegrino, right? That whole, this. If you wake up and you log on to Base Notes or Fragrantica, you go on to Facebook, you go on to Reddit, and your automatic response to like everything is, it's time to find a new fucking hobby, really. And it is. It's time to find a new hobby. It's time to just wear the perfume you have, enjoy that, take a step away from the socials, take a step away from the groups or whatever you're in, go play some video games, watch some movies, I don't know, read a book, if that's your thing, go outside, you know what I'm going to say next, touch some grass, breathe some air, just get out of the sphere if you just have this completely apathetic, cynical view of everything. So I've done my doom and gloom videos, and I've also done my happy videos. I've done my historical videos. I've done my critical videos. I've done a wide spread of things, okay? Very infrequently, I name drop another content creator, but usually when I do name drop them, I have stuff that is publicly known that they do. So it's not like I'm making accusations. Like whenever I name drop a creator and say, this person did this thing, that video is still up. You can still watch that video and literally see them do the thing that I'm accusing them of. They literally do it on camera. So, but I seldom do that. I very infrequently do that. I try to keep my nose clean. I try not to be this dirt-slinging person who's always got some shit to talk about somebody all the time, right? That's the thing. And they're the people that just, you've always got something bad to say about somebody or something all the time. And eventually, that vibe just kind of spreads and it becomes everything. Now, I'm not saying that a person should be happy with the way Perfume is going these last few years. I'm not saying that they should be rainbows and puppy dogs all the time. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you should eat shit and be grateful. That's not it. I am not saying that. I will never say that to you. But I'm just saying, if your favorite thing in life, one of the things that brings you joy, brings you anger instead, the least you can do is learn the source of that anger. And like I said, it's not the influencers, it's not the content creators, it's not the reviewers either. Some of y'all get really angry when someone reviews a perfume, like when a Luca Turin reviews a perfume and he has bad words, you want to like swallow his soul like a demon and like destroy him. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense to have that kind of anger. You shouldn't have that kind of anger. You should know what you're actually angry at. In that case, if it's a reviewer giving an honest opinion, then the only thing you have to be angry at is honestly yourself. Okay? That you're having that reaction that you don't have the, the critical thinking to separate yourself from the product you enjoy. You identify with it. It's like someone is insulting your mother. That's a you thing, okay, that you need to deal with. But if you're going to be angry at something like the perfumes themselves and how they're being promoted and how expensive they are and generally not good they are, that anger needs to be pushed towards the brands, because the brands are the ones making the slop, okay? So there are very few cases where influencers are involved with making the slop, okay? Like, obviously, I don't need to put a disclaimer here. It's very common knowledge that Jeremy Fragrance has a fragrance line that's very commercial in style. It costs a lot of money, hundreds of dollars a bottle, but very cheap bottles, very cheap caps, very high concentration, granted, but they are very commercial fragrances. So you're paying hundreds of dollars for an overamped version of like a Paco Rabanne or something, or a Valentino thing that you could buy anywhere for like a third of that price and get a better bottle while you're at it, okay? So there are some content creators who are making the slop. So you just don't buy that slop, right? There is an audience for Date or Office or whatever. There's an audience for that, and you're not in that audience. So don't complain about it, right? Just don't mess with it. The ultimate protest you can do is with your pocketbook, by just not giving it attention, not buying it, not even sampling it. Just be like, nope. Do a Drake meme, be like, nope. And then when another content creator puts out a fragrance that's actually decent and smells good, like Eugen's fragrance line, like Mr. Smelly's fragrance line. Like those are actual, you may not like those fragrances, but those particular content creators actually were trying to make something that they thought would be memorable to their style, their taste. They're kind of putting their heart on their sleeve with those perfumers. You know, John Stevens in Dan's case, and in Eugene's case, Antoine Lee. But point is, they put a little bit of themselves in those fragrances. So if you dislike them, you can't say that they're slop. They're just not for you. But the ones putting out the big commercial slop, you can just ignore that stuff. And then in terms of the cynicism and the apathy and all that, you know, as much as you hate it, there are a lot of people who do like that garbage, the really just front-loaded $400 Tom Ford, bitter peach, rose prick, whatever crap. People are buying it up like crazy, okay? It wouldn't sell if there wasn't a market for it. Unfortunately, you know, supply and demand and all that stuff, you know, economics 101. Again, I'm not the guy to really give you a lesson on that, but I know enough to get by. And I know that they wouldn't pump all this crap out if people weren't buying it, right? Because they want to make money, not lose money. So same sort of thing. It's like if someone else is wearing the newest Louis Vuitton aquatic nightmare thing, like Imagination or whatever, and you don't like it, afternoon swim or whatever, let them spend their $400 on that garbage, and you can just go whatever tickles your fancy, you go and do it. But my point is, if you're going to be angry, know what you're being angry at. And if you're going to have a negative disposition towards something, maybe you should just tune it out. Maybe, I don't know, don't look at new Chanel releases. Don't look at new Guerlain releases. Don't look at new things from Creed. If all that stuff just makes you indifferent and just apathetic and unhappy, then tune it out. Because if you stop listening, you stop giving it any actual weight in your mind space, you stop giving it attention, then eventually, if enough people do that, if enough people just start ignoring it, you know, then who knows? Eventually, something might change. Granted, this is the double-edged sword. If every single person in the online fragrance community all got together and boycotted one brand, that would still only impact them on a very small amount, because we only matter a very small amount to begin with. So I'm not saying that if we all got up and boycotted Creed tomorrow that suddenly they would release Green Valley again. That won't happen. We are a tiny slice of their pie. But at very least, they do count somewhat on the hobbyists, because the hobbyists are repeat buyers. The hobbyists are regular buyers. They buy the same bottle over and over again, or they buy multiple bottles every year. So we do have some effect on their purse strings. So if everyone just decided to not give a shit anymore about Tom Ford, not give a shit anymore about Creed, not give a shit anymore about Louis Vuitton, and just go do nothing but wear Zoologist, wear nothing but Rogue, you know, all the darlings that we have in the community, just wear nothing but the indies, nothing but the small brands, just ignore the big brands, cut them off basically, pull their card. You just pull their card, you'll be a lot happier. If that means only vintages, I know I have said a lot about vintage snobs and gatekeepers, and I have said a lot about them being toxic and weird and controlling and just having a weird view and myopic, manipulative view on things. But, you know, at the expense of being a hypocrite, if just wearing vintages and just talking about vintages makes you happy, as long as you're not weird and gatekeeping about it, and as long as you're not psychotic and rude and controlling, if you just want to live in a vintage world, go right ahead. I would much, much rather you live in a vintage world and be happy than sit there and be absolutely miserable because every new release is disgusting and you assume that they're all bad all the time, right? I'd much rather you just live in your time capsule and be happy there, right? So that's really what it boils down to, man. This malaise we're going through right now, where everyone is angry and everyone is disappointed all the time, and all anyone ever has to do is say something bad about something. The only way you're going to break from it is to know the true source of your displeasure and focus on that. And then once you've done what you can do with that, right, then just cutting it off and focusing on what you enjoy. Getting back to the thing that made you a perfume collector, getting back to the thing that made you a frag head, getting back to the thing that brought you here in the first place. Okay, you lose sight of that and all the negativity, and the malaise can break. But right now we're just in this funk where all these people have nothing but snide and rude and nasty comments to make. They have nothing but bitterness and vitriol, and they are jaded and cynical, and just everything sucks and everyone sucks and all of you can go to hell and fuck all of you and I hate everything. And that is not how to enjoy a hobby. That is not how you enjoy a hobby. Really. Okay? We are not a hobby full of Eeyores, guys. We are not all sitting here Eeyore going, oh, woe is me, all the time. All of the time. Okay? And it's not what we're about. So that's it. It's my video on the malaise in the fragrance community. Hopefully you'll take something away from this, and I'll catch you.